Welcome to a Deeper Dig Conversation Series, episode 25. It feels good to be back after a very long week. I'm very excited to be back here at Joaquin Miller Park. It's a very nice day. It's a very beautiful day. Today I have someone who is not just an artist, but she's a storyteller, very passionate at her core. And, she's someone who I've been able to check out and been able to listen to her music for a long time now. I'm very excited to see her grow and just see her develop overall, just curating this feeling of emotions that tie into like a deeper surface of, how we really feel about ourselves. So, Dani, welcome. Thank you for joining us and enjoying the day with us.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it really is such a beautiful day.
Yes.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
No, absolutely. So one of the first things I want to ask is, how will you describe yourself as a person? Just, I feel like you're more than just an artist, obviously, but, how will you describe yourself as a person?
Describe myself as a person.
Yep.
I mean, I'm a human girl. I'm a musician. I'm a writer. I'm a producer. Yeah, and just a person in this world trying to make some music, I'd say.
Absolutely. So with you being a singer and songwriter, how did that start? Like, what was one of those quick moments where you felt like, okay, this is something that I really want to do?
Oh, that's a really good question. Probably, I think when I was like 14 or something, I had a crush on this boy, and I think that was when I like wrote my first ever song. And then I showed it to my mom. She didn't really fuck with it. Oh, can I curse on here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
No, go ahead. You're good.
Yeah, I showed it to my mom. She was like, that's nice. And then I didn't really keep doing it like ever again. I think I would like make little covers and like beats on GarageBand. And then, always like had been, into music, playing instruments and like singing and stuff. I did opera for a really long time. And then, I think like around college, I got really into jazz, like more seriously, and like was in the jazz program. And then, was producing my own music. And then that's kind of how I ended up here.
I'm curious, did your mom not like the song because she knew it was about a boy?
That's such a good question. Who knows? Honestly, it probably really wasn't good, if I'm being totally real. I think I was in my feelings. I was at the piano. It was probably not that good of a song. If I'm being real. But, it helped me grow because I think, I don't know, it's good to, like, be encouraging, I think, but it also, I'm the type of person where, like, I'm definitely, like, I'll show you type of person. And so it made me a little bit shy about sharing my music for years, but I never stopped making it.
Just that feeling of being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. Or like kind of this feeling of like, well, at least I like my music. And I think that's kind of been helpful, at least in maybe finding my sound, because I've just been trying to make music that I like to listen to.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, like, are there any like inspirations that you like kind of take in with your music? And the thing about having inspirations is that it doesn't have to revolve just around music. Like sometimes there's artists that really revolve their work around film or off of personal like family relationships. Are there any people that you feel inspired or driven by when you do your own music?
Oh, that's such a good question. See, and the thing is, like, people ask me this question all the time about my musical influences, but never, like, other stuff. I'm definitely, like, such a, movie lover. I go to the movie theater all the time. That's, like, my favorite place. I'd say a movie that like has always been in my brain and really influenced my music and who I am as a person is Love Jones. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
It's like a 90s like black like rom-com. So good. And it's just like artsy, like black people in Chicago. The soundtrack is so good. They're like all artists and like poets and, photographers and stuff. I feel like that was really influential in terms of like the life of an artist and also like the type of sound and like feeling that I'm always trying to evoke in my music. Like kind of a sort of like nighttime, like I don't know, smoky bar where no one's on their phone.
Like that smooth jazz. You can just
Yeah,
see
no,
like the
exactly.
smoke like in the air. And
Exactly. Like
yeah.
people are wearing like black turtlenecks and like someone's like beating on a drum. Like that's my shit. And then also in terms of like music, I mean, I honestly grew up listening to whatever my parents put on in the car, and they had me kind of late in life, so I listened to like a lot of like 70s soul. My dad is really into like boom bap, like hip hop. Like he really put me on to like Tribe and stuff, Tribe Called Quest. My mom loves like the 70s, like slow jams, like the Delphonics and the Whispers, and like I love all that stuff. Of course, like, you know, the jazz greats, like Sarah Vaughan is like a huge influence for me just in terms of like musicianship and feel for sound and melody. She's incredible. I think she's so underrated. Yeah, and then probably also like a really big influence is Robert Glasper. Like that Black Radio album. I remember I had like a little like iPod Touch. It was like my first ever iPod, and my dad put all the music on there. So he kind of put me on. Like I didn't know how to download music, and he just like got a bunch of music illegally off the internet. And two of the albums that he put on there was Black Radio, Robert Glasper, and then Who is Jill Scott. And I just like rinsed both those albums like all summer, and I was like, God, I must have been like 12 or something.
That was a massive awakening.
Oh yeah, he really put me on. My dad, I mean, he, you know, was like a radio DJ when he was around my age and stuff, and like, yeah, he has a really good sense of music. Both my parents, honestly.
You know what's interesting about Black filmmakers, just to talk about it a bit? So it's funny how you mentioned that smoky vibe in the jazz bars, because like I feel like nowadays, like specifically, like, and it's not just to talk about like, you know, like how that feeling comes, but like specifically with Black filmmakers, you see like in The Color Purple, even Soul. Like I think Soul, you know, the Pixar film from back then. I think that's like a
that
perfect
movie.
example.
That movie is everything to me. Whenever I'm like tripping or something, I'm always like, let's watch Soul.
So like I'm curious as well, like when you get into a creative funk, is there anywhere or anything that you do to like kind of help you get out of that creative funk?
That's such a good question. I've always been a really big bookworm, and I feel like if I'm in a creative funk, I have like a very toxic relationship with other music where I'm like, I can't listen to it. Like if I'm like in a, you know, I'm struggling to write music, I know that like if I listen to like Hiatus Coyote or something, I'm gonna be like, wow, like I'm not shit. I'm never gonna make music again. And so then I think I really turned to books and poetry, especially. Like I love reading poetry. I think the last time I was in a creative funk, I read this book of poetry by Richie Hoffman called 100 Lovers. That was really good. And also just like fiction. Like I'm a big literature nerd.
You got a beautiful dog interruption.
Oh, this dog's so cute.
Yeah, there's a corgi there. Beautiful corgi.
Bye. I love you. I'll do anything for you. I always feel that way when I see a dog. I'm like, wow, like I don't know you, but I would die for you.
Oh yeah, nah.
Oh my God, there's so many dogs.
That's
They're
the
super
energy.
cute.
Nah, that's the vibe.
This is a really cute park.
It's a beautiful,
Y'all
peaceful
chose
park.
well. You really did.
So one of the things I do want to talk about as well, I want to talk about just water signs and how that.
Jump scare.
No, like where did the inspiration for water signs come from?
Oh, I think honestly, I was 19 years old. I was living in Paris, and I was like, wow, I need to write a song every day. Like I'd been making music for so long, and I just never shared it with anybody. And it kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, am I gonna do this or not? And so I was like living on my own, like in a tiny little apartment, and I was working, like doing like a journalism job, like internship, and just feeling like I need a creative outlet so bad. And so I would go home and just like write a song literally every single day. And I was going through a lot. Like I feel like I must have been going through like 3 breakups at once. Like it was messy. And so I was just writing a bunch, and that's kind of how it started. And I think one of the last songs I wrote, Deja Vu, Water Sign, was like one of the lyrics, and I was like, okay, cool, that's the title of the EP.
I just feel like when you like travel like outside of the U.S., I feel like you just get massive inspirations because it's like
100%.
It's like wearing new glasses. You just get like introduced to a new world.
Exactly. I think also like I was kind of like feeling like I was becoming a different kind of person. Like, I was definitely like leaning into kind of like the life of an artist and like thinking about like, I don't know, writers like Baldwin and stuff who like went to Paris and like got their groove back and stuff. And that definitely was the case for me. I think I was kind of in like, I was like, out really, really late, like at the discotheque, and then I'd go home and like be sad, but in like an artistic way. Like, I definitely romanticized my life a lot. I'd be like smoking a cigarette on a Lime scooter, like, and I was like, wow.
On a Lime scooter? How are you even able to do that? I can't ride an electric scooter with one hand.
I've never been on a Lime scooter since. I think they're so dangerous. I should not have been. I mean, I definitely broke laws on a Lime scooter. You're not supposed to like ride them in the street, but that's what not any
you
serious
rode them
laws.
in the street.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that. But like, okay, it's like 4 a.m. There's no cars in the street. I want to go fast.
Oh my god.
That's just me as a person.
Nah, you're on that Tracy.
Yeah.
You're on that Tracy Chapman vibes.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I was just traveling a lot and like, yeah. I love Tracy Chapman, bro. My mom saw her live, actually.
Really?
I'm so jealous.
Where'd she see her live at?
I think it might have been in Oakland.
Oh,
maybe. It might have been when my mom was out here. Probably. Or DC. That's where my mom's from.
Yeah.
Or like, she immigrated to the U.S., but that's where like she grew up.
That's sick. So I'm curious, do you have like a specific song on water signs that you feel more connected with? I wouldn't say more connected with, but you feel like with water signs, is there a song that personally captures you?
That's a really good question. I think Deja Vu. It was the last song I wrote for the EP, and it was kind of like the one that I wrote where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm done. And like, this feels like me for real. Like, I'd kind of tried out a bunch of styles. Like, I don't know, water signs is kind of a hot mess. Like, every now and then I'm like, maybe I'll just delete it. I'm a big, like, I'll just delete this, like, person. And my manager's like, no.
Shout out Christina.
Yeah, shout out Christina. We love Christina. I don't know how people live without her. But yeah, she's always talking me down a ledge because I'm like, I want to delete it right now. And so if it ever disappears from streaming, that's why. It means I won.
Oh my God.
No, but to answer your question, definitely Deja Vu. I mean, Time Off is the song that kind of popped off a little bit. Some people really like Where You At. I'm like, I cannot stand that song. Like, I'll never listen to it again. I had my little, like, Jhené Aiko, like, triggered thing on some of the tracks, too. Just kind of, like, freestyling and, like, calling people out who broke my heart. But no, I think Deja Vu is definitely, like, more who I am as an artist. Like, kind of taking, like, sort of abstract or like complex idea and trying to like distill it into something and just being like nostalgic. And I don't know, people ask me sometimes like, oh, who is this song about, because they want to know like about some situation or whatever, and I'm always like, it's about me. And I feel like Deja Vu is a really good example of that, where it's like, yeah, it's inspired by a situation, but it's also just about me and like, I don't know,
it's like your journey.
Yeah, exactly. Like how I felt in that relationship. At least I think. So, but yeah.
Yeah. So, just recently performing with Asha Wells and getting that feeling of like talking about your music and singing your music in person to a wide audience. How was that for you?
I mean, Asha's so dope. They're like an incredible songwriter. And it's kind of cool because I feel like a lot of the time when I'll do shows with other artists, it's often like other R&B artists or like hip hop, that's kind of like my area. But I love like, a singer-songwriter vibe, like, like a white person singing very softly. Like, I love that shit too. And I definitely come to music as like a songwriter first. And so I feel like Asha and I really connect, and like, I just love their music. And so, yeah, it is nice to like perform for a wider audience and kind of strip things back. Like, I was playing with my trio. So like me on keys, David Exme on bass, Carson Freitas on drums. And like, yeah, it felt nice to kind of return to the songs in that way for that kind of audience.
I think another thing that's so beautiful about it is too, as a songwriter, is that you're able to just kind of sing your process out, because as a songwriter, one of the things that go into it is that it's such like a process, and it's a process that requires like a lot of knowledge from within. And I feel like when you kind of like go about your music, is that feeling of soul that you're able to capture and embody with your music.
Thank you. That's really nice of you to say. I mean, yeah, it definitely is a process in the sense that, like, when I'm actually in it, I'm like, fuck, this is so hard. Like, it's so hard. I mean, also, I just kind of sometimes really, anyone who's dated me can confirm this. I kind of, like, struggle to express myself sometimes. Or, like, I'll have a lot of words, but, like, don't want to say them type thing. Like, I can be vulnerable, but it's just kind of, like, hard for me, and I'd prefer not to a lot of the time. But I'm trying to get better at that. So, yeah, it is a process, even just in the sense of, like, I feel this all the time with music where it's like a message in a bottle, you know, where it's like you send it out and you don't know if anybody's going to receive it, but it's kind of not yours anymore. But writing the message is always like very like dark night of the soul type shit where like, I don't know.
And you're just able to get it out there too.
Yeah, but it's a lot of choices though. Like I feel like at the end of the day, being any kind of artist, it's literally just a series of choices that you're making, and there's no good or bad or like wrong choice. You know, there's no moral like orientation to take towards making art. Like you just made the choice that you did, and so I try and tell myself that of like, okay, I just need to make a choice. I just need to make a decision here and there, and then keep making decisions until the thing is done.
And so that's it's deep to the core, actually. Like, for real. One of the things I am, like, really, that captures me, like, with your music specifically, that kind of, like, adds in a dopamine into my mind is definitely the production. Like, your production, like, I'm curious on what inspirations that you have as far as, like, the production side of it. Like, anyone that you want to mention that kind of drives you from the production side of your music.
Yeah, that's such a good question. I mean, you know, I learned to produce from like YouTube Academy is what I always like to say. Yeah, University of YouTube. Got my degree. Yeah, and honestly, just like truly like fucking around in Logic. I try to be as intuitive as possible because I feel like for a while when I was like really first starting to learn to produce, you're trying to make something that sounds like this or like something that sounds like this, and ultimately I kind of just felt like, you know, if I'm trying to make a beat like Knowledge or whatever, it's always gonna sound kind of not good because it's not I'm not Knowledge, and so I just kind of want to produce like me. I definitely take a lot of like my, you know, musical knowledge into it, like, you know, stuff I've learned from like classical, you know, training and like jazz, you know, jazz piano especially. So I think that really comes out, like that influence. And I definitely kind of write music from a jazz point of view where like, you know, I could write songs a little bit and like mess around on the piano, but when I really started knowing about composition and arrangement, it was in a jazz context. So like that's just kind of how my brain works, like thinking in chords and like sections and arranging in that way, I think, and like trying to make choices. But yeah, I mean, production wise, I'm really inspired by, you know, Robert Glasper, like I said, and you know, the production on like Jill Scott's music, like just this kind of like, you know, jazz and like hip hop influence. But I also lately have been really liking kind of like going back to basics and like doing everything analog and recording with only live instruments, you know, in a recording studio for pretty much my entire experience of producing for years and years. It was all just like me on my computer. Like all of Mirror is literally just me and my computer in my bedroom, like no other instruments, you know. I'm like playing everything, and so that's fun because
That's
I feel
impressive.
thank you, but it's like I feel like it really made me feel like the songs were mine, like I, you know, was making every decision, and also, you know, collaborating with other people, like having like Vu mix it and you know, stuff like that. But like all of the actual production decisions I was making myself, and that can be really like liberating but also limiting in the sense of like I want to work with other people. I want to like have someone else's hands on the track and like, you know, make music the way that people have made it for, you know, decades and decades, like recording on tape and like having, you know, just my band in a room and play the song all the way through, and like that's the recording. I kind of like that. I like the spontaneity of that and like leaving things up to chance instead of it all being like controlled by me.
And I know that feeling is definitely captured with Plastic and Bending, which is a song that I definitely, in my personal feeling, is one of my favorite songs because like I definitely feel like you capture both elements. All the elements you talked about today embodies what I listen to with Plastic and Bending, and so I'm curious on what type of like motivative factors that went into Plastic and Bending. Like, was there anyone that you were thinking about? You know, this is a song that I'm really driving by off of you.
Oh, thank
and
you.
all those details.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I feel really proud of that song. Like, I feel like I had something that I wanted to say for a really long time, and it was just in my notes app, and I really struggled to, like, make it into a song. It was just kind of floating around in my brain and on my phone, like, the actual words for it. And then I've been traveling all summer. I was, like, in France again, and then I came back, and, like, you know, it was my first time being at home, like, in my, you know, apartment with my computer and my keyboard, which I'd, like, brought with me to France, and I'd been writing all summer, but hadn't, you know, been able to, like, get this song that I kind of had an idea about. And it's so crazy because the song came out in like 30 minutes, maybe. Like I just sat, just like 30 minutes. Like I think I just was like sitting at the piano, like just fucking around, like playing, you know, sounds, like, I don't know, messing around, and then I came across like a little chord progression that I was just fooling around with, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll finally try that song that like I've been wanting to write for a really long time, and it just came out. Like I feel like it totally wrote itself. It took a long ass time, but it eventually did. And so once I had the, you know, harmony, the like harmonic ideas and the melody and the words, then it was really just a question of like adorning the song with production, like sitting at the computer and arranging and adding, you know, synth, and then adding like kind of, you know, my little derpy version of like a piano solo. Like I was kind of just fucking around. Something I'll also say though is like I played the song live a good bit actually before I even finished the production, so I definitely think that influenced how I, you know, wanted to play it. Where like the band, they had the demo, so they kind of knew what I wanted for drums, they knew what I wanted for, you know, harmonic ideas and stuff, but just after playing it live so many times and kind of understanding what worked, that was when I was able to really finalize the production and like decide, okay, this is definitely what I want it to sound like. We've tried it a million different ways at different shows, and, you know, basically just lied to people telling them this is a song. You know, that's something that I do. I'll just like play a song and, you know, I'll tell people, you know, it's a new song, and they kind of just get the version of the song that happens that day. There's like a new song that, you know, I'm gonna have coming out soon, and different audiences have heard different lyrics. Like I don't
get 20 million versions.
Yeah, exactly. Like to them, some people might be surprised when the song comes out because it might not sound like what they first heard. But yeah, Plastic was that way, where I just did it a bunch with the band, and I had the production already, which was great because they knew what I wanted and they're really receptive to my ideas. I can be kind of bossy, as I should be, I think. Yeah. But yeah, just like a lot of fine tuning, and then the song turned out the way it did. Like altogether, I would say it was like a 2-year long song, but I actually wrote it in 30 minutes type of thing.
It's crazy. That's crazy. One of the things that definitely I'm really happy about is like just being out in the Bay Area. Is there any artists from out here that you feel inspired by that's like currently out in the Bay Area?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, definitely Asha. They're incredible. I really love the session. I've played with them a couple of different times, like open for them. I really like LUJ. I think I've met him one time, but I was like really shy.
LUJ's from here?
I think so. I've seen him around. I think he's from here.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I like bumped his stuff a good bit, and like he's dope. I love Javier Santiago. I think he's out here.
Yeah.
I've seen him out here. Yeah, that's like, he's one of my favorite artists. Another person who like I met in real life, and I was just like shy, and I was like, hey, you know, didn't tell him that like I love all your music. I've listened to like everything you've ever made. and you're one of my top Spotify artists. But you can't say it. I gotta be cool. I gotta be chill.
Well, I mean, it's gonna be up here, so.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'll run into him one day and I'll tell him the truth.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting though because I feel like there have been like a lot of dope artists that I've met who I'll like see a lot and then I won't see as often and then I'll see them again, and like that is one thing I like about the Bay Area is I feel like everybody kind of does their own thing. There's like a community of artists here for sure, but it's like not super tight knit in a good way, if that makes sense. Like it's very expansive. Like people are doing all different kinds of things, and like you'll run into people, and then they go into hermit mode, and they're just like making music, and you'll never see them again. Like, which I definitely make music that way, so it's good for me.
Yeah, I know the thing about the Bay Area is, and specifically with creatives as well, and in the music space, is like everyone. There is like a large sense of community in there, but I do feel like. Like we get our inspirations across various of like cities and different areas, and we incorporate that with our own like art. But I feel like the thing that the Bay Area definitely do needs to push as far as like being creative is like being more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is like, connect with that person and collaborate together if it aligns well. And I feel like music is so easy. It's easier to do because like, there's so much respect that goes into artists, and there's so many people that like respect people's art, but it needs to be more like widespread. Like it needs to be recognized.
I agree. I also feel like the Bay Area, from my understanding of it, having moved here a couple years ago, like it has a real like distinct sound and vibe to it that's just so different from any place. My mom, my grandma, my uncle lived out here for years and years, and like would always talk about how much they loved it. And so moving here kind of felt like, this is like I do have like some amount of family ties, and like everything a lot of the things that they told me about the Bay Area, and this was like the 80s, this was like late 80s I want to say, and a lot of it was still true. That like vibe, that like way of being, like people here are so themselves, I think, in a way that like it's a real shame when that isn't like nurtured as much as it could be. Like I feel like I just generally feel this way about artists and artistry in general. Like if you just make decisions that feel like really true to you, people will like it. Like I feel like kind of going back to what I was saying about like my early days of like really learning how to produce and feeling like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing, like I'm just gonna do whatever Jordan Rakai says or do whatever Kenny Beats says.
Kenny Beats.
Love him, like been in his beat battles a couple times, but like I don't know, like if you, or like, Kiefer is another really big inspiration for me production-wise, and he says this all the time, actually, which is like, if you just make music that sounds like you, like, it will sound good, because you are, like, you have taste, like, you spend years and years and years just as a person who loves music, even, like, deciding what kind of music you like, and so if you just make music that you like, other people will like it, because everybody shares music in common that they like. Or same thing with like, for a while, I think like when I was trying to figure out like, what is my sound? What kind of music do I want to make? I was very concerned with wanting to make music that was so individual and like unique and like just me. And Kiefer says this too, which is like, if you just make music that you like, it will sound unique because you are unique. Everybody is unique. If you're trying to sound like other people, it's gonna sound kind of basic and like just like any other person, but sometimes you just have to make decisions that maybe other people might not understand, but then they hear the song, they're like, oh, that was so dope, how did you do that?
Yeah, and just going back to like the Bay Area and just those opportunities, so you got a chance to perform at Noise Pop and KQED, which are like kind of Bay Area staples for music, and just all around, I feel like every single platform or every single thing that they've done from a creative perspective has been sick. So shout out KQED, please do me a job. And shout out Noise Pop. So how was just being in those spaces? How was performing in those spaces?
Oh, it was like amazing. It's weird because like when I first moved to the Bay Area, the shows that I've been able to do now were like dream shows. Like I thought maybe when I was 30, I'd get to do like a show at SF Jazz or something like that.
SF Jazz.
Yeah, I love SF Jazz, and like I, through Noise Pop, getting to perform at SF Jazz was like a huge dream to me. Being able to like perform on like KQED was insane. Like to know that somebody would be turning on NPR and they'd like hear me on the radio. Like, well, I don't know why they allowed that to happen, but I'm very grateful. And yeah, they definitely are Bay Area staples. So it definitely, I don't know, I can get kind of a little in my head sometimes or like impatient. And I definitely try and like look back to, okay, like I've had these like amazing experiences. Like I just want to make music and like have it be sustainable, keep making music for like as, forever, for as long as I can. And moments like that are real, I don't know, moments that like kind of like make you feel validated as an artist, I guess, to feel seen and feel like people think that what you're doing is like valuable and important.
It's also that green light that will just kind of indicate to you that like, hey, your work is really working. Just keep building off of it.
Yeah, exactly. That and getting paid, if I'm being
totally
honest. Getting paid, like, yeah.
No, that's real. That's real.
When I first moved here, I remember like saying like, I will literally do anything. I will take any gig. Like I will perform on a bucket by Lake Merritt. Like if people will just pay me $5, like I'll do that. Because it was kind of hard to find gigs, and like I feel lucky that now I'm in a position where I'm like, okay, whoa, like too many gigs.
Yeah, you have that resume built
like
up.
I gotta be places, and like I have to like check my email.
And now you got your own headline show.
Yeah, which is cool. That's nice.
Yeah. Let's talk about more about that. How you feel going into it?
Oh, I had a stress dream about it last night, where I dreamed that I was there. The show's June 15, Café du Nord. So that's exciting. Like, been to shows at Café du Nord. I opened for an artist there once, and she was like, like a big artist kind of. So that was very cool. She had a sold out show. And I, always thought, oh, it'd be so cool to be able to do a show at Café du Nord. But I'm trying to sell that bitch out. That's my plan. And I've got Sample Love and Kajin for Some opening. So it should be a good lineup. Yeah. Stress dream aside, I think it's going to be a really great show. June is my birthday month. Like, it's going to be lit.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just like to close it out, like what you have that's in store outside Cafe du Nord. I know you're making this album and you're releasing more work, but like what do you have set in store?
Ooh, what do I have set in store? Well, yeah, this album coming out. Have a couple of new singles like on the docket. My problem is I'm always writing music, and so it's just, like I said, choices. I have to decide what actually is going to be on the album. Like I've got to pick from like dozens of songs and like come up with a narrative. And
it's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. It's also interesting though because it'll be my first album. I've only released EPs before, so I'm really looking forward to having it be like a bit more conceptual, like having it have like a frame and a narrative, and taking my time with the production and the mixing and recording how I want to, recording with live music, live instruments, and like doing it, as offline as I can.
Yeah, I actually do have a question about that. Why is the name Dani Offline? Why do you name yourself like Dani Online?
Because Dani Online was taken.
Was it actually taken? Yeah. Wait, for real?
No, but like honestly, it's funny because it was definitely like a moment of kismet, I think, where like I was trying to come up with an Instagram name because I'd had another Instagram name since I was like 11. I was like, that's gotta go. And so I thought, okay, this was like pandemic era when everybody was like changing up their Instagram names to be like something.com or like .wave or .mp3. I was like, I can't be just like anybody else. Like maybe let me do like .online. And online was taken, and I was like, okay, fuck it, Dani Offline. And it's funny because it actually is much more me. Like, I think Dani Online, that's like an alternate universe. Like, she's making like hyper pop or something.
Experimental music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Dani Offline is still, she likes to experiment for sure. But like, I definitely feel much more like rooted. Like, I know it sounds so pretentious, but I really do just love analog media. I love, like, I was at the airport yesterday and I bought a magazine, so offline. At my SF Jazz show, we gave out postcards as merch, like, very offline. I don't know. It just, to me, it feels like a lot more me.
sell out books.
Well,
You know.
yeah, I mean, like, I feel like there's so much you can, I don't know. Like, I love the internet, and I always have. I've been on the internet, God, as long as I remember. Like, you know, I've just always had kind of unrestricted access to the internet ever since I was, like, a little kid. Interesting.
Oh man, no PBS Kids. that was me.
No, I was on PBS Kids, and I was also on Omegle. It is what it is. But
that's insane.
like just like so I love the internet. Like I've always been, I was like really into Tumblr. Like I used to like a chat room.
I still have a MySpace. Y'all will never find that, but I still have a MySpace.
I wasn't allowed to have MySpace because I was too young.
But you have Tumblr.
Yeah, no. Oh, well, that's the thing. So I had Tumblr and Twitter, and I was not allowed to have those things. Like, sorry, Mom. It was like a secret. Like, I made those accounts. Even like I almost got kicked out of my Twitter account because I lied about my age when I was making it.
Man, that's a skill issue.
So, Twitter, like, I'm so sorry. Or X.
Hey, X, yeah.
But yeah, because I was like 12. I was not allowed to be on Twitter. But yeah, I love the internet and stuff, but also I think who I am as an artist is like a lot more offline. Like, I'm a human girl. Like, I like to go on a walk. I like to read a physical book, or like, I don't know, talk to people on the phone, that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Listen to the radio in the car.
Like the phones, not this type of phone, but the phones with the cords. You have to at your grandma's house.
No, and for real, I've been thinking about getting a landline just because, like, I've been like, I don't know, the phone, bro. Like, I've been doing something lately where, like, I'll put my phone up somewhere, almost like a house phone. Because I was thinking to myself, I'm like, why am I bringing my phone to the kitchen? Like, why do I have my phone in my pocket when I go pee? Like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but anyway, that's like a real tangent for sure. But yeah, that's why Dani Offline.
It's real. Dani Offline, it's been such a pleasure having you on.
Thank you so much.
Incredibly grateful, and thank you.